room?
Yeah.
Who are they?
Well, Mark Catone, Ed Toole, and someone named Chall.
Oh, yeah, he's the applicant for 7 Greenleaf.
Okay.
So if we get to the,
Right, okay, all
yeah.
right. Well, so certainly admit Ed and Mark, because they're going to be on part of our first order of business here.
Yeah.
Oh, we still have a minute left. Because, let's see, John said that he would be on, right? John McLaughlin.
Hi, Ed.
I'm monitoring YouTube. Terry's on.
Hi, Terry.
Oh, hello, Terry. Okay, Terry. So is Terry going to be on as a participant? Or is she just watching us?
She's watching on YouTube.
Right. So I don't need to include her in my list of people participating in this right now. Okay, just making sure. All right.
Do we have
Well-
everybody who's sitting on it?
Well, let me put that in slightly different terms. This isn't an application. This is an other business item. And so what I need and what we have at the moment, at least to get started, is a quorum.
Okay.
You know, I was kind of hoping for more people on here.
Well, I just texted a few.
Oh, good. In the meantime, I think I'm going to start into our boilerplate intro on all this, just so that we can move it along. Okay,
Yep.
Kathy, you okay with that? You're muted.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, all I said was we're good to go, right? I can get
Yes.
started.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read the script given to us for remotely conducted meetings, which of course this is. As a preliminary matter, this is Ray Pohl, Chairman of the Nantucket Historic District Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. And I'll put a stipulation on there that we're expecting, hoping that other members will join us. And as they come on, we'll make note of that fact. Okay. So members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Abby Camp.
Aye.
Thank you. Val Oliver.
Hi.
And myself, Ray Pohl. And members of the staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Flynn.
Present.
Thank you. Holly Bacchus.
Present.
Thank you very much. Now, the anticipated speakers on this agenda. So far, I have Chuck Lenhart. Chuck, if you're muted, unmute so that you can just say aye, okay? Well, I know he's out there somewhere. Ed Toole.
I'm here.
Thank you. Hollis Webb. Good. Mark Catone.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, and I forgot Diane as a member. Now, is Diane unmuted? Diane, are you out there? You're not Diane. Diane's with us, right?
She is. I just admitted her.
Okay.
Where?
Kathy, are you able to bring in Guy Danella?
Oh, yes.
The owner? He's
Yes.
waiting. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to get back to Diane when she's up and running. I don't see her up there yet. I see another icon for her. So let's see, just to be clear, I want to make sure that I have gotten everyone who will be speaking on the matter before us first. So,
Matthew, are you able to bring in
oh,
Guy Vanilla?
we are-
This is Guy.
He's waiting.
I'm also here.
Thank you.
okay, right. So I'm going to get back to Diane when she's up and running. I don't see. Oh my God. Okay, whoever has the streaming thing on, please get it off because I'm hearing myself 30 seconds after I've spoken. Okay? So, Guy Danello, is that your surname? Guy?
Muted.
Oh, Jesus. Guy, if you hear me, can you please unmute and just say aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Hollis, we got. Marketone, we got. We're still waiting on Diane. Chuck, we got. Anybody else? Oh, there's Diane. Diane, you're here. Can you just say aye? Diane? Diane, can you please say aye?
Hmm.
Either she's in or she's out. I can't move forward without her answering in the affirmative.
It says
Ah.
Diane is connecting to audio, so we might have to wait a couple of seconds.
But she's in two boxes.
I think one of them might be her daughter. I'm not sure.
Good, I know.
Diane, if you can hear me, we're waiting on you to respond in the affirmative.
And Stephen is waiting to get let in. Stephen
Okay, let's
Welch.
let Stephen in so we can move this along. Thank you. Val, have you heard from anyone else other than Stephen?
No.
Okay. Who's LS?
LS.
I don't know.
Leslie Schnell.
I don't think she didn't mention to me that she was coming on this meeting.
Okay. Are we trying to admit Stephen and do we have any information on Diane?
I can see Stephen.
Oh,
He's
Stephen
the
is
LS.
LS.
Hey, guys.
Oh,
Hey,
there's
Dave.
Stephen. Okay.
They let me
He's
in
LS.
Stephen,
against my better judgment. They let me
we're
in.
already running amok here. Stephen, when I call your name, please say aye. Stephen Welch.
Aye.
All right, great. Now Diane. Okay, when Diane comes in, let me know. But I'm gonna kick this thing off. So we have all of our anticipated speakers, we have our staff, and we have all of our members, with the exception of Diane, who's trying to get on. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to meet remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. Mute. Mute. Doug, are you muted? Hopefully, yes. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the HDC is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and other folks may see you, and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Everyone, please heed that one. All supporting materials that have been provided of this public body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, let me cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each member speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, and I want all of this underscored, so I hope you're all listening. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. If not, we're going to mute it for you. And please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so please do so through the chair. That's me, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. I don't think I need to read that portion of this. Finally, each vote taken at this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. We're all familiar with that. Have we heard from Diane? I see Diane. See, but cannot hear at the moment.
Hey, Ray,
Yeah.
just so you're aware, John has been trying to log in, and I will forward him the link in case there's something malformed with what he has, so he can try and get in.
Can you hear me now?
I can. So Diane, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping stuff. So I just need to call your name as a member participating in this meeting, and I want you to answer in the affirmative. Diane Coombs.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, so those are our members thus far. And it sounds like we might be getting John McLaughlin on, in which case I'll come back to him. So may I have a motion to approve today's?
No. Motion.
Thank you very much, Diane. Roll call vote. Val.
Aye.
Thank you. Abby.
Aye.
Thank you. Diane.
Aye.
Thank you. Stephen.
He's muted.
Chairs.
Aye.
Okay, Stephen's in favor, chairs in favor, motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Oh, so we do have a public comment. I want to make clear to everyone who's on this. We're hearing from members of the public here, but public comment is a section of this that is basically comments in general that the board does not respond to. So we're online. This is for Holly and Kathy. Do we have any public comment not relating to the next matter we're moving on to?
No, sir.
Okay, with that then, I'm going to move right along to item number 2 on our agenda, which is a discussion regarding 81 Vestal Street grading and retainage. I'm sure, as all the board members know, there's been a lot of public comment out there. I've gotten emails and phone calls about this particular project that was approved some time ago, and we're gonna get a whole history of that from various people that are on this call. So given the amount of concern over things that are taking place out there, I felt that it was necessary to bring this out into an open forum under other business. That's why we're all here. So we have people, abutters to this piece of property at 81 Vestal, and we have the architect and owner also present for this meeting. So I think what I'd like to do, I think the sequence of this is going to be, I would like to hear from those of you on board right now who have concerns about what's taking place at 81 Vestal. I'm going to give the owner and the owner's representative some time, of course, to respond to those concerns. And then I will open it up to the board members and hear what they have to say about it. Okay. So let's see. I know that Chuck has done an awful lot of homework on this one. So Chuck, if you can hear me, I'm hoping that you might be able to be the first person to talk to us about this.
I hear you, Ray.
Okay, great. Hey, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
You have such an engaging face. I'd like to see it.
So for some reason, I'm clicking start video, but it says that the host has blocked me.
Let me see what I can do on this end.
Like start my video. There we go.
Oh,
There, got it.
okay, thanks. Okay. So Chuck, I know that we have a lot of information that was submitted by you in our folder on this, which is on the desktop there. Could you run through it all for us?
Yeah, so just a little background. I'm on a butter from across the street from this property at 25 Dukes Road. And I've been on Dukes Road for 33 years. Hollis is a neighbor. In fact, he and his brother own the property at 28 Dukes Road next to me and 30 Dukes Road, which is directly abutting this property. And I keep forgetting to put this in this letter. I think I sent it in before, but I do want to make a comment about 30 Dukes Road. And at this point, there is a structure on 30 Dukes Road that, my understanding, is the oldest structure standing on Dukes Road. It's 105 years old, according to the town documents. It is the primary residence there. It is in bad shape. However, the Webb family did make some significant improvements to that to get a new roof on it and to get repairs to the perimeter that was salvageable in place so that that building is not a loss. And in fact, Hollis lives there and intends to move forward with that property. So it's a contributing historical element on the road. It's not a beautiful piece of architecture in today's standards, but nonetheless, there it is. It's an important piece of our history. So that's a little background on it all. And last summer, this project went through originally back in June or July, and there was a butter notification, and Hollis and Ed Toole, direct abutters, got notification. I did not, because I'm beyond that purview, the distance, I think, because I'm down on Dukes Road, although it's very much in my view. And at that point, there was a design that was done that was very much in keeping with the neighborhood, very respectful to the terrain, the landscaping, everything else that exists there. It's a very challenging site. It is sloped, highly visible from that whole ridge line of Upper Vestal is visible from Dukes Road in the wintertime. You walk up into the public area, the bamboo park there, you look right across at it from Dukes Road. It is clearly a very prominent element. And Crooked Lane passes through there as public walking. So it's visible from multiple areas. And that design, the house was up near, settled off the road and off the hill and set at a height that was great. And the pool was adjacent to it, but parallel to the road. And the lower portion of this sloping property was unchanged. The existing grades were unadulterated. 6 months later, in October, this plan came back in for revisions. And at that point, it falls off the radar screen. So no one sees that because there were revisions that were less than the required square footage. And so no one got any kind of notification of those changes. And so this went through without any debate by the adjacent property owners. And so our current concern, the first that we realized what was happening here was when all these forms started to go up after the COVID quarantine was lifted, where construction could start again. And we saw footings, but you didn't realize what was happening. Somebody said there's pool, there's this and that. Well, when the forms went up, and all those photographs show that clearly, this was eye-catching. And that's where our concerns really came in, that what is going on here? How did this go through? And the resulting design at this point has a double tier of retaining walls, one 5 feet off the property line. The second one at its closest point is 10'6". And that in fact becomes the foundation for a pool cabana. And when you take existing grade, they are filling 10 feet at the one corner of that pool cabana, and the pool cabana is 17 feet tall. We have a 27-foot high ridge line relative to the point where it sits right on that 81 property. You go down to the edge of the property where they butts Ed's property, and it's 32 feet, something like that. I think the number I came up with, but it's significant, and this is a pool cabana that has got a ridge height that is comparable to a house. It's really significant. And along with this are this extensive retaining wall components that have come in completely to create this elevated platform. And in fact, that's what it is. They've taken the elevation as the house, dropped it 1 or 2 feet, and created an entire plateau up there for a swimming pool and a pool cabana to sit on. The really tough thing is on the eastern property line that abuts Hollis Webb, that retaining wall runs from 10 feet off the corner line. Actually, it runs from 5 feet. The lower one's 5 feet off. The upper one's 10 feet off the northerly property line, and runs all the way along the easterly property line to the front of the house.
Hey, Chuck.
Yes.
Well, just so you know, it looks like Kathy is trying to get some of your collateral information up so that we can have a visual associated with your narrative.
Yeah. So if you go to,
Kathy, Chuck, why don't you direct Kathy? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 80, the photos that I believe I sent at 5:30, I labeled those with letters. So it'd be that second, the one you have highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would be item A, the photograph A.
Kathy, are you able to open that? Kathy must be muted.
Are you, Chuck, this is Kathy, are you saying that you sent me, when did you send me the photos?
So it's the second item down.
Oh,
listed
okay.
at 5:30, yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the one
Keep going up.
that,
One?
Down.
Second
one down.
There, up,
Okay.
up. Go on. There you go. That one. That one.
That's what I was on.
Right, but all we see is that the screen. We don't see any
Yeah.
photos.
No photos.
Oh, no, here we go. What am I doing wrong?
Sorry to interrupt. This is Andrew from NCTV. Kathy, you need to remember to just share the screen, not the document.
Right here? Is that?
No.
Can you see now?
You need,
No.
No,
Okay,
you
Kathy,
need-
try this. Kathy, open up the document first before you share the screen.
right, so, yep.
Okay, hang on. Stop share.
I hate this program.
It's just operator error, that's all.
Hey, Diane, it's tough, but we have to hang in there. So well,
Can you see it still?
we can
No.
only see the agenda thing. We can't see the photo.
Stop share.
Steven, did I just see you raise your
When
hand? Wait, hang on, everybody. Steven. You're muted, buddy.
Muted.
You're muted.
Kathy, would you like me just to pull it up?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Cheap. You can do the whole set. Photos,
Thank you. Okay.
Oh.
Chuck, you see all that?
Yes, and so what I'm going to say about this this is the original group of photos that I sent through before the form was completed. However, this is a good view. This is the approach coming down Duke's Road, where you start to see this, and the trees have not leafed out at this point. That's completely changed in the 3 weeks or so that's gone by since this started to happen. But there it is. That is that northeast corner that, as abutting Hollis's property, the roof line that is on the left-hand side is the roof line of that historic structure, the 105-year-old structure. But for scale, you see vehicles parked there by that tree that start to give you a sense of scale of how tall that is over the vehicles. I think if you scroll down on these photographs or up, there. Now that once again,
Chuck,
the lower wall is not in
Chuck.
place, nor is the
Mine-
extension of the cabana. And there's a more recent set of photos where all of this stuff, but Hollis gives you a sense of scale. He's standing at the property line, and there's a building that's going to sit on top of that is clearly going to break the horizon. And it is a pool cabana.
Okay, Chuck, can I ask you a question at this juncture?
Yes.
Because I think this is very important to a point that needs to be made with respect to what we're reviewing right here. Your photograph is labeled view from Duke's Road. I just want to confirm that it was from a public way as opposed to Hollis's driveway, which we know is not a public way.
It is, I am standing in the middle of Duke's Road
Okay.
at the end of Hollis's driveway.
Okay, because what's germane to our discussion here is whatever is visible from a public way, publicly traveled way, and not a private property. Okay, thanks. Go on.
So in the previous photo, I was also standing. So I specifically took those pictures. I was in Duke's Road looking up towards that property. So I think if you go down now, so this starts to give you a sense of scale of that retaining wall. On the right-hand side of the photo where there's that brace going up, that is the corner of the retaining wall turning to go back to the Cabana building. And I believe when they pour that, they're only pouring maybe 8 inches below the top of that form. So that's a sense of scale from the top of the plateau that they're creating to Hollis's driveway in that approximate area. Their pool deck level will be 12 to 15 feet above that driveway level. And that wall is 10 feet, just 10 feet and change off the property line.
Can I ask you a question?
You may, Diane. Thank you.
The brace that you see the guy standing behind his car,
Mm-hmm.
and then over to the right more with a little bit of sunshine, there is a brace.
Mm-hmm.
How tall is that wall?
That is, can I answer through the chairman?
Is 2 feet.
That is a
what?
10-foot panel.
Did you get that, Diane?
Yes, I was just sort of
So
taking in,
if the whole panel is 10 feet tall,
right?
and the wall itself is not going to go all the way to the top of the 10 feet, but 8 inches below that. So that means that the wall, the poured wall, not the formwork, will be, above your diagonal brace there by 2.5 panels. You see what I
Okay,
mean?
it's unbelievable. That's all. I just
Okay, well, we'll get into a discussion about that. So I'm sure Chuck will be happy to give you any information, but we'll deliberate on this after we've heard from both sides.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So continue, Chuck.
So, I don't know if there is a more recent set of photos that was sent through
Yep.
on the 30th in that whole package to you that,
Excuse me,
is-
Mr. Chair, through you.
Yes, Stephen.
Chuck, if you look at the screen now, do any of these ring a bell? With respect to the
27.
photos?
the third one from the bottom,
Yeah,
try that one.
May 27th photos. That should be it. Yep.
Yes. Now, So this is all of the formwork in place for all of the walls. So on that top photo, that's that corner we were just looking at with the brace.
Mm-hmm.
But now what you're looking at is the corner of the retaining wall. And then when it turns yellow, when the forms are yellow, that is the foundation for the pool cabana. And then you go to the right a little more, and that is the lower wall. And that, my understanding is that lower wall will be, there's that first strap that you see down there, they're down at that height, somewhere down there. That form is a lot taller than the wall has to be, but by a foot to a foot and a half, something like that.
Okay.
But the yellow wall, now when you go to the second photo, and these two next, this second photo, what I've done is sketch the cabana sitting on top of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, maybe I'm a little big there, but I'm going, so they're supposed to show somewhere in the range of 6 feet of concrete on that corner of the foundation of the cabana. And I don't know that I'm that far off on scale there, but that cabana, you can see how the cabana sitting on top of that clearly breaks the ridge line that's created by the trees for the entire hillside.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask a question? Has the cement been poured?
No. Well, let me be clear on that. The footings have been poured, but the walls themselves have not. And that was because I believe that the Mark and his client were both aware that there was this concern from the neighbors, and there have been ongoing discussions. So the walls, and please, if I'm saying something untrue, I would like somebody to correct me on this, but as far as I know, the walls have not yet been poured.
And the footings are below the two sets of
The
forms?
footings you'll never see, so I probably
Okay.
should not have even mentioned those. Like, no matter
All right.
where this goes, you'll never see those footings.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Continue, Chuck.
So, you know, this series of photos just shows that cabana sitting on top of the wall. Again, that photograph A is me standing in that same location at the end of Hollis's driveway at the end of 30 Dukes Road, standing in the street. I think the next one down is all I've done is move west on Dukes Road. And now that is the view where you will be pulling into the driveway of Ed. If you cycle the photo down, please.
Even we want to advance it. There we go. Yeah.
All right. This is the driveway location for this brand new building, which Ed Toole is building at 32 Vestal. And the driveway will drive in here, and that's exactly what you will be looking at. The cabana sitting on top of that center mass, the retaining wall to the left, the lower retaining walls. And I am standing in Dukes Road. And then the next series of photographs, I think, are just getting up closer where you start to see existing grade relative to these elements. And the one with the number 14 shows, which is the most egregious point. It is the northeast corner where all the retaining walls in the cabana all come to their closest point, where you, from the lower retaining wall to the foundation of that cabana, you only have about 5 feet. And keep in mind that they're pouring that lower retaining wall below the tops of even the shorter forms, but they're pouring that upper element well into so that upper element, those are 10-foot forms with another 12 inches of framing added on top to pour well up into that to create, that is the foundation for the pool building and this cabana. So it really gives you a sense of scale. And, you know, in this picture, you can see the windows of Hollis's house, the original house there. And this is above the ridge line of the original structure. It's just significant in its presence there. And I don't know if there are any more. I think that may be all the photographs that are there. But this is not hard to get a sense of scale of how this is going to tower over Hollis's property, but it also towers over Duke's Road, from Hollis's driveway. I walk out my front door and it's what I look at every day. And there's been talk of planting this and planting it with evergreens and getting a lot of planting in. This last photo here, there's the shed, Hollis's shed. You can see that top of that plateau is almost over the height of the adjoining shed. People up on that patio will walk to that edge and look down. And I would tell the one thing that's not in here, nor has it ever been in any of the applications, is that because of the height of these walls, there's edge protection required. So there is some kind of fencing or element required up there to keep people from falling over the edge. My understanding is the proposal is going to come in with some type of cable railing system up there, but it's just one more architectural element that adds a minimum of another 3 feet to this element.
Mhm.
It stretches it even more. Planting wise, if you come in here and plant this thing with nothing but evergreens, there's nothing about that looks like it belongs in the neighborhood. Hollis has some really tall Leland cypresses. There are a lot of hardwoods in this thing, but to take something that's going to be green year round and wrap around this will not look natural. It will be this blob of green hiding this monumental architecture behind it. And no matter how you plant it, no matter how you screen this, I just can't wrap my head around the 27-foot ridge height of a secondary structure so close to the property line on a hillside. There's just, it's kind of beyond belief that it got to this juncture. And I know in reading notes, there were a point, I think, Abby, I give you credit. You said, how are you dealing with this 8 or 9 feet of concrete wall? Yet somehow there was an approval granted. I also would note that in the meeting minutes, and that got published, is there was a proclamation made that it was minimally visible from Duke's Road. Well, that's clearly not the case. It sets a dangerous precedent for hillside properties. And there are 2 more lots adjacent to this. Duke's Road is changing, Vestal Street is changing, but the potential for this to then happen again and again is there once this becomes an example of something that's approvable.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. And Chuck, you provided a fair amount of collateral information on this. Is there anything else you wanted to show us before I moved on to some other voices?
Yeah, so this is a big point that I made, and I looked at all of the applications, and in all of these applications, I'm looking for the retaining wall. Where are the grade changes? Where are the retaining wall? So I went to the main house, and I gave you a copy of that, and I circled it in red.
Okay, so Chuck?
Yep.
Hang on a second, because we're going to get Stephen to get us to the drawings that it sounds like you're going to start referencing.
4th one down, Stephen.
There you go. Main house, right.
Hello.
Oh, hi, John.
I'm just trying to get it on here. I just trying to get it working on the, I got the application up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, John. Thanks. John, right now Chuck Lenhart is presenting. So why don't you mute for a little while, and then I'm going to I'll get your opinion after we've heard from both sides. Okay.
I'll just leave it sit till you get back to me. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Yes.
Okay. So Chuck, continue. We got the application in front of us.
So on this application, I just made the point here. There is no mention of the retaining walls that come out and extend out behind this. And this was a revision from the original application. And yet and I point out that there's the drawing that shows, well, here's this retaining wall that's now coming in. How come it's not there? It's not mentioned on this application anywhere. And when you see the building plans that are attached, there's no indication that there's anything there. And then I think the one that's most important is the elevation sheet when we go down.
Okay.
So that, it's just, there's no retaining wall, there's no retaining wall. When you get to, if we could, this one, we want to get to that lower east elevation. And this is what I started this is what's happening there that doesn't show up on this elevation of the relationship to the eastern property line. And that is now a retaining wall that's extending out. And in fact, it goes farther than I show there because it goes on out to carry the pool cabana. But it is an extensive retaining element that has to run the length of that property line along 30 Dukes to create what we're having happen here. So I made this point, I think, of this application. It says, well, here's this, where these retaining walls all came in, but there's no mention anywhere of retaining walls.
Hey, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
Chuck.
Yes.
So we just looked at the house application.
Right.
Do you have the cabana drawings? And if so, do they show the retainage?
I want to go to the next would be the one that says the pool. So as we move out, so here's the pool application. And it's a pool revision. It's moved from a different location on the property to behind the house into the new plateau. There's a grade, I asked the question, where's the grade change information and where is the required retaining wall? You go to the plan, there is no retaining wall highlighted. There's no mention, there's no clouding of all of that. There's no way the pool goes there without a retaining wall. And so once again, it's the kind of thing where, and there's a significant grade. When I get into the discussion about the pool, this shows up in one of the other drawings, but to get that pool in the place on the one side of the hill I think it requires 6 feet of fill on the south side and 9 feet of fill on the north side for that pool to be in that location. Yet at no point is there a grade change mentioned there. That's significant. That's a significant element to be left out of an application in terms of providing the board accurate information for what's happening here. So and again, retaining walls are nowhere mentioned at all. So now we go to the cabana. And the cabana is the same thing. On the application, there is no mention of any retaining walls at all. They call out, if you go back up, there's a 6-inch, or I think the number is 60 inches for, on the north side, there would be a 60-inch grade change. On the southeast and west, there are nothing listed. In fact, there are grade changes everywhere. The grade change at the cabana is closer to, it's actually over 8 feet right at the cabana. And it varies along there. I think as I go through this in my letter where I wrote the letter in there, at the middle of the pool building where the retaining wall intersects the cabana on the northeast corner, the grade change is 10 feet. On the west side of the cabana, it is 6 feet. They clearly failed to define these significant grade changes anywhere on this application.
Diane.
Yes.
Mute, please.
That's not me.
You don't have a dog barking?
No.
Oh, that's Abby. Abby's busted. Okay, continue, Chuck.
So if we go down to, just cycle down through these, I think on the drawings here. So, there's the top of the wall. I'm noting this retaining wall that's all there, that's all visible. This entire, I don't see anywhere where the wall is physically written onto the application. It's clearly noted on these plans. In fact, there's extensive retaining walls everywhere that are shown on the plan, but I never see where the actual application is. I know I bring things in and you write that on the application that's what you're applying for. You also cloud it and document on the drawings. And if you're making an 8-foot grade change, you would say 8-foot grade change, not a 60-inch grade change. So, and the rest of that just leads to, you know, when they did the elevations of this cabana, they don't show the relationship to the actual property line. They kind of just show where they think they can manipulate the grades to bring it around to that. The section there shows those previous, and I'm using their drawings and their grade elevations to show you that there's 6 feet of fill at the one side of the pole, 8.5 feet at the other, 10 feet of fill under the cabana. From their application, the cabana has a 17-foot ridge height. That's a 27-foot high building relative to the existing grade. And I show the discrepancy when you get down to the corner also. So all of those elements are there, were clearly intended, but not accurately shown to the board. And I think the last thing I included here was just the notes where Doug says this is not a minimal visibility due to structures going on Duke's Road and vegetation. And that's clearly not the case.
Okay. Thank you for your research, Chuck. It's very thorough. So Ed, Hollis, would either one of you like to speak on this application at this time?
Go ahead, Hollis, if you want to say anything. I'm good for now, Ray. Chuck pretty well summarized everything.
Okay. Hollis, if you're interested in adding to what Chuck has already said, you're welcome to do so.
Hello.
There, hi.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think again.
We can't see you, but
if
you prefer to remain anonymous.
It says that I can't. It says I cannot start my video because the host has disabled it.
We'll get you on eventually, but there you go. You're on.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
So I just wanted to. I think Chuck pretty well covered all the details on everything that's going on. I'd like to thank the board for coming together on everything, and thank Chuck for getting all that information together. And I just a few remarks on the scale of this thing. Like the grade changes were kind of mentioned by Chuck a lot, but I feel like something was missed as far as the contour goes for this, and the relationship between the wall and my driveway was just hard. It must have been missed, but I haven't seen a project like this go up on the island really anywhere else. And I think the architecture, like this wall, this structure sort of speaks for itself. And I've been talking with Guy, the owner of 81, and we've been working really well together on trying to discuss some options for this, like a planting plan and all that. But some of the missing information on that application that was red inked. It just kind of jumps out at me. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have, is that like from my driveway at this point, imagining a 17-foot tall cabana on top of that foundation just seems, it seems pretty imposing. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, well, Hollis, thank you very much. And, we might get back to you. We'll see what the board members have to say. Okay, so I believe that's everyone who wanted to speak with concerns about what's taking place. And now I want to hear from Mark Catone, who, as we all know, was the architect in charge of this. So Mark, you want to let us know your feelings about this?
Sure. Thank you, Ray. Well, I think Chuck did a very thorough job in going through all the information, so I won't go through too much detail. And again, I appreciate the board's time on this as well. It's clearly a very challenging site. It's maybe among the steepest site locations that we've worked on, certainly along Vestal and other locations. And frankly, we retained Brac Engineering early on to review the site conditions and work with us on that. And Don also helped us and assisted us with the cut and fill on the site, as well as the top of walls and bottom of walls. And his plans reflect what's in the field today as well. We until we cleared the site, I don't think we even realized Hollis was there. And in some respects, the vegetation was so thick, nor was it clear because the contours don't drift out onto the neighboring property, how quickly it dropped off again onto Hollis's property. So I think Hollis's driveway is at around elevation 26 or so when we've stood on his driveway, and that's consistent with GIS. And relative to where our pool deck is currently planned and approved for is at 36. There's a 10-foot difference there. And then our pool cabana is indeed approved at 17 feet to ridge height. And I think that's where Chuck is getting his 27-foot number from. So that's assuming it's clearly a wall plane, but that wall plane is then broken again by mitigating lower retaining walls. This site, when we put this application in November and it was finally approved in December, it was a 2-week review. The board requested additional information, which we provided, which were site sections, which clearly show the grade changes, the retaining walls. We spent quite a bit of time walking the board through that. The board also did a viewing. So this wasn't based on just the information we were providing, but they viewed the site in between the first meeting and the second meeting. And understanding the board can't see everything, and understanding you do your best to visualize what the impact might be. I think we have to also bear in mind that once the cabana is in place, is actually the main house, which will be behind this and begin to put the structure into scale. We seem to be very focused on just the cabana, but of course, the main house will sit behind it, and clearly its ridge height is higher. But that main house, again, we spent quite a bit of time looking at that site and working with Brac, and they actually established the first floor elevation for us, and we're at first floor elevation, I believe, 39 feet 2 inches, coming down off of Vestal, which is 46 at the start. So you come down to that grade. It sits down significantly lower, certainly much lower than the neighboring property. So that's sort of this cut and fill condition that's created on the site as a result of that. So we also were very concerned about site drainage. This site, 20,000 square feet, used to run towards Ed's property and into Hollis's property as well. And we worked with Bracken and developed a site drainage plan to capture all of that. And we've talked to the neighbors about trying to capture the remaining, I think it's around 3,000 square feet, that may run in their direction, so we can mitigate that as well on site. We clearly voluntarily hit the pause button to have a dialogue with the abutters when this came about. We've continued to do that, to continue to have that dialogue. The owner made a trip down, who's on the Zoom meeting guy, to meet with the abutters on Tuesday, and has continued to have dialogue with those individuals since. Our approval was contingent upon providing a landscape plan and a vegetative buffer to those walls, which is exactly what we did back in December and how we secured the approval. We've actually now taken that a step further and enhanced it and put a plant schedule together of not just evergreens, because I think, as Chuck clearly stated, well, that's becomes an anomaly. We've all seen the sites in screens that have been created with Leland cypress, and they just look alien. We want it to be a natural mix of cedars and arborvitaes and so on. So we've identified about 7 plant species that would go in there, and of maturity, not small caliber or small gallon, but of significance. We've also had dialogue with the immediate abutters to provide vegetation which would creep out beyond our property line and onto theirs if they're willing to accept that. So we would bring plant material to only increase the buffer that much more. I thought Chuck's photos actually were very helpful that he took from Duke's Road looking back, because in those photos, you can really get a sense of the scale of vegetation that exists on Hollis's site now. Those evergreens and plant material will continue to tower over the cabana. And if we can only continue that buffer and enhance it as we work from the Hollis's property westward, we would marry that up. I think, it's unfortunate, and I think we've seen many projects across the island in our history here of projects that were under construction that looked maybe a bit glaring, Like the classic term is watching the sausage being made, and we're watching forms going up, and it all just looks very challenging to the site. But in reality, when it all comes back together, the walls are then parged. We're talked to Hollis about a wood timber wall to give us the terracing. We're not proposing an 8-foot exposed wall to Hollis's property. That is significantly stepped down and mitigated by a secondary wall that wraps the corner. So at most you see about anywhere from 6 feet of that wall on the back side, and then it tapers down to 4 feet of exposure and retaining as it comes around to the east on the Hollis property. This is all obviously a little challenging without a series of drawings.
Mark?
I think a series, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I have the proper visual on this. So the photos that Chuck showed from Duke's Road looking over Hollis's Drive at the very tall 10-foot high formwork, you're saying that there's a retaining wall that's going in between there, right? Obviously on your client's property, that's 4 feet high?
Ray, so yes, there is a.
Able to show that?
What's that?
Am I able to share my screen?
I
don't know that.
Kathy has information that you submitted, I believe. Kathy, is that true?
There's a survey from Bracken that Steve might be able to pull up. That was submitted.
Yeah, we've obviously produced. Yeah, that's useful.
Okay.
Right there. So you can see elevation 36. So this is a quick sketch. We've been working fairly quickly at this over the last week as I go back and forth with Guy and we have conversations with the abutters. But you can see the pool deck with the scale figure. We've introduced a privet with a wire and privet for the guard. This then drops down about 5 feet. We then have an 8-foot wide planting bed. And then we have proposed a timber wall below that, which would be, so this wall would face Hollis's property.
Mm-hmm.
And then we continue to roll down. The exposure on that, Ray, to your question, that we've drawn this at 3 feet of exposure here. And then we continue to drop back grade. So this timber wall is 2.5 feet back from the property line. Then we're showing an enhanced buffer if Hollis was interested, that where the owner would then introduce additional plant material to make that buffer only feel that much more natural as it rides from Hollis's property up to the pool deck itself. The large plantings up above are schedules. We've called those out as Japanese cedars and Eastern cedars, varying in height of 8 to 10 feet, mixed with additional materials, smaller plant materials in between to create as natural a buffer as possible. This is a site, so this is a section you're seeing from the pool deck down to Hollis's property. Let's pretend that's Hollis down at the lower section there. And 26, it'd be his driveway. And then the grades very quickly start to rise upwards to the 36.
So thank you for that, Mark. And I have a question for you.
Yes.
Let's look at that 10 feet of plantings that you're doing on Hollis's property there.
Yes.
And let's look at the 10 feet of plantings that's on Hollis's property, and then the 2.5 feet that bring you to that intermediate wall that we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, so from where you have the lower scale figure till you have that wall, there's grade change. It's grading up. Are you adding that, or is that existing?
That's existing. So it's certainly existing on Hollis's property. We wouldn't be manipulating his grade. And then it continues to pitch upwards from the property line to the proposed wood timber wall. And then that's where we would create a pitched but more level terraced area to be able to accommodate the larger plant material, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, yes, it does. Thank you. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Val.
Just for clarification.
Yeah.
It's confusing to me. What he's showing us, the little sketch, is not the same as what's up above. This is spilling off toward the east.
That's correct, Val.
To the east, yes.
It's two different sections. So this top drawing was a drawing that was originally provided to HTC in November, which is the one that runs south to north to Ed's property. And then we, in our dialogue and discussions with Hollis and the neighbors, developed this additional site section just to see how we could mitigate and terrace from the pool deck down to Hollis's property to be sensitive to the impact on his property as well. So it was not one required by HDC or for the submittal, but one we have produced since, not only for our own exploration, but also to illustrate our intent to Hollis.
Okay. Val, you're okay with that answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I understand what I'm looking at now.
Yep. Okay. Continue, Mark.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I think this also looks terribly exposed. I don't know if we're able to click down to the next image, whoever's controlling the screen. There we go. You can see the scale of vegetation on Hollis's property relative, and I think even Chuck well illustrated this in his photos. And then our intent is only to continue to restore that vegetation, again, consistent with the HDC requirements as we move westward along Ed Toole's property. Ed's property currently is completely cleared. There's not any vegetation remaining on that. And that's why we've actually extended, offered to Ed to extend the vegetation even out onto his property if interested in doing so, just to make that buffer that much more natural from his.
Mark, you're talking about basically landscaping along the southern edge of Ed's property, the northern edge of your property, so that the visibility from Duke's Road is mitigated.
Absolutely. And to be sensitive to Ed's property so that there's a softening of the element as viewed from his property, just again, trying to be sensitive to the neighbor. Here you can see the enhanced landscape plan, the plant schedule that we've proposed with examples of the plant materials themselves. Again, combinations, even deciduous and evergreens. We did give this some thought in terms of how this buffer were to go together. And again, this is an exercise we would have done at some point, but we've certainly made it more robust given the concerns of the neighbors. I guess in summary, and I haven't stated it, but I feel it's obvious. I think we've all seen sites again in construction where you might pop your eyes, and this might be certainly one of them. But once completed, and once the vegetation came back, and once it was restored, and you even give it a year or two to mature, you hardly notice these properties. And we've seen up and down Vestal examples of this. We presented those examples to you in November when this was approved, in December itself, of significant retaining walls that exist, I think at 41 Vestal Street. So, we were feeling confident we were doing sort of introducing elements that have already been introduced along Vestal, and then which are exposed to Vestal even today. This we're proposing at the rear of the lot would only be fully vegetated and screened out. We never said the cabana would not be visible from Duke's Road. We said there'd be minimal visibility. And I think with the plant material proposed, only the upper section of the structure will be visible, again, in scale with the main house, which will then be behind it. I know Chuck spoke of breaking the ridgeline, but the ridgeline is really broken by other structures in the context, and certainly the main house will be behind it. So there is a relative scale to those two structures. In terms of green blob, I think the mix of materials from pear trees to from the deciduous to evergreens will kind of avoid that mix. It should be a natural landscape. And Guy is very sensitive to that as well. The main house application, lack of retaining walls, those all show up on our drawings as part of the cabana and pool application. So even though they're kind of connected, they are attached to a different application. And given the complexity of the site, we didn't necessarily say from east, west, and so on what the fill and cut was, but the contour information that we did provide speaks to all of that. And in fact, the cross sections illustrated even further. I think we were more than open about what we were looking at. What information I wish we had, which we didn't have at the time, was how quickly it drops off in Hollis's property into his driveway. It wasn't until the lot was cleared and we started some of the work that we realized, just how low it would go, but still feeling confident with our planting plan that would be mitigated. So I think, I love our client and our contractor. I kind of our work sort of speaks for itself. We wouldn't be satisfied if this continued to be a disturbing element along the landscape. We'd love the opportunity to just kind of continue with the process, plant it out, continue that dialogue with our neighbors, and properly screen this as per the original HGC approval in December. And not only per the approval, but we've taken that a step further as this information is now in front of you. These are drawings we've developed since that approval, which are far more robust than what was actually filed as approved back in December.
I'd love to have a chance to make a comment or two. Right?
Who's talking right now?
I'm the homeowner.
Oh,
this is
Danielle.
I'm the homeowner.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just hang on. Mark, you're all set, right?
I think for this time being, thank you.
Okay, great. And I see Doug on there, but was Doug going to speak or just view? Just thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, got it. All right, Mr. Daniello, you're up at bat. It's your turn.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, just a couple points. One, both my wife and I, love Nantucket. We've been coming out for years. From our perspective, we're, building a house we've dreamed about for years. We used to rent on 70 Vestal. So, when we had the opportunity to, purchase a piece of property here where you'd have such a wonderful kind of meadowy type view, we jumped at that opportunity. So I want to be clear, we certainly plan and intend to make sure that, a lot of the green is there. I want to make sure, I'm committed to making sure that, Hollis and his family have a green view there. And I've been, came over to the island to talk with him, Chuck and Ed. I don't totally get, to be quite honest, I'm just going to say it. I mean, Chuck lives across the street. He's already planted trees that are going to block his view for a lot of this, and seems to have some concern or beef with the board here. And he's kind of using this property to air that grievance or whatever it is. But, my commitment is to making sure that, kind of Hollis and those guys have a good green. And I asked Mark I'm going to stop share and kind of reshare this to draw this. To sketch this out, and I asked him to take the highest point possible, right, comparatively. And what was, as Mark indicated, what was not clear is that the land already dropped down significantly, and we had to, I guess, to put the footers in, you have to go down to be able to do that. So what we're seeing, and what all the pictures Chuck is taking, is in the worst possible state it could possibly be in. If you look here, these are the trees that already exist between Hollis's property and our property. If you notice, they're already as tall as what will be the Cabana height for the most part, right? And it just happens to kind of slide down quite a bit. So we have 10 foot of space to work with, and then he has vegetation that's already there that is much higher than we included even in this sketch, right? So our plan would be is to really kind of step it up, put kind of as Mark had shared, that lower wood kind of retaining, and then put planting on top of it, so that all they see is a very nice green wall, both in the winter and in the summertime. And certainly we're going to work, and I've already been in contact with Hollis and talked about it. I feel like my personal feeling is we can work together to mitigate this. But it's important to note that if you look at this picture, the trees that were not disturbed are pretty mature, pretty big trees. If you look in this picture, the only reason you even see this is because there's a house being built on Duke's Road. And when, the builder, Ed, cleared the land there. Otherwise, there would be vegetation that was already here and quite mature that would block most of this view, right? Now, and I'm certainly not saying, everybody had the right to clear the vegetation, but part of the reason you see such an extensive planning plan is all that we're working to put much of that vegetation that was cleared back and make sure that, this is green, it's beautiful, and people continue to have a beautiful Nantucket green view, right? And that's what we're plan to work with certainly Hollis on. I know Ed didn't speak, but I've talked to him and said, hey, we're certainly willing to and have the planting plan that I shared, which again I'm going to share one more time.
Mr. Daniello?
Make sure there's good vegetation there, right? Because when you have to put in some of these foundations and do work, those things needed to be replaced. So if you notice, we're even sharing some vegetation that, I would put in at my cost if he's up on his property. And that was stuff that they took out. So, I really feel like we can mitigate this. But
Thank
sorry.
you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Now, we're actually, believe it or not, we're running out of time. We have to be off of this session at 3:30, and as we can all see, it's 3:10. So we have 20 minutes. I just want to make a really, really quick response to, I appreciate your comments, and I just want to respond in one way, and this is kind of for everybody. But you mentioned about Chuck Lenhart planting trees on his property so that he doesn't have to look at it, or the fact that Hollis's trees are there and they're mature and all that. To the degree that the neighbor's private concerns are congruent with the HDC's public concern, which is views from public ways, we'll listen to them. But like, if Chuck is screening from his house and he can't see it because there's trees, and then he drives out onto Duke's Road and he can see it, then that's a public way and that's our purview. So I only say that because now I'm going to open it up to our board members and see what their opinions of all the presentations are, if you don't mind. So I'm going to begin with Val.
No.
I'll go.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's see.
I'll go.
There you go, Abby. Thank you.
I think the sensitive thing to do in this situation is to go back to the drawing board. I believe that the cabana and the pool are in the wrong place, and they should be shifted so that the land can get bermed down naturally towards Duke's Road and Mr. Hollis's house. The scale of the poured concrete is so un-Nantucket and so insensitive to the natural landscape. And so I, for one, would like to see this project go back to the drawing board and get reconfigured.
Okay, Abby, thank you for that.
Hello.
Thank you, Diane. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I agree with everything that Abby has said. I think that the owner that talks about having a Nantucket countryside, he is not building that. He is building the opposite. I see no age timeline for the trees. Trees that are there have been there for some time. Trees, deciduous trees, don't grow that fast. And it completely changes the landscape in the area. I would like to see more specific plans, not just a plot plan for that house and somebody's Ed Tools house is over here. I'd like to see a plot plan with the house, with the other house, with and the property lines and the distance between the property line and the construction. We don't have, the man says he loves Nantucket and comes, but we don't have, I can't think of a place that has 8 to 10 foot walls in a residential area. We have one wall that big over in Gowaki land, but that is about it. This is a very country rural area, and what he has given to us is none of that. So I would go with Abby and say we need to have a redesign.
Thank you, Diane. Stephen, are you ready? Is Stephen muted? I'm going to unmute Stephen here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, there you
Are you
go.
actually taking comments from all members or just the board?
Well, you know, Stephen, the reality is that when we started this hearing, you were one of the 5 members. So I think that I would, you know, you're on.
Okay, I'll try to be brief.
By the
think
way,
I don't disagree with the comments that the other commissioners have made. I am, however, concerned I'm just looking at this realistically in terms of what's on paper. I would need to study before I could make a final determination on a position. What was actually approved relative to what's out there? Is there a discrepancy? If there is, that would have to be eliminated. With respect to if what is on paper was approved, my concern is that that's what we approved. Now, we sometimes make mistakes. We sometimes miss things. I would, however, emphasize the concept that, this is a neighborly community, and this is a neighborhood issue in some regards. And we are a small community. I think sensitivity is important. And I think that one of the things that I would ask, if this is going to be going back to the neighbors and the abutters, is for the applicant and the applicant's architect to consider, whether they have already or not, I don't know. But if you were to look at the plateau, I'm just going to do a quick share here. I would suggest looking at lowering this plateau so that you have a set of stairs on the other side of this railing on the far side. Lowering this plateau such that you have maybe 6 steps. I understand that in this area, there's a retaining wall that's already poured. Starts here with steps down to the basement. If this plateau were lowered, let's say arbitrarily for the sake of discussion, 42 inches, a metric that coincides with the stairs, this retaining wall could be lowered somewhat. The whole so that the stairs still work. This whole plateau could be lowered a significant amount, and that would allow this across this portion, and it would allow this portion to be lowered. The other comment I want to make is that despite the fact that we approved what we approved, I still have to get clarification on in my own mind. When you look at the site plan on this property, I think one of the important elements, and I'm not suggesting any malfeasance or act of disregard towards the commission or the neighbors, but the fact that there's not the structure that exists here, which I wasn't aware of until I went out this earlier this season when there wasn't foliage, just when this issue came up. I wasn't aware that that structure was there. We weren't aware that there was a structure here when we reviewed this application. And I do believe it's a material element in our decision-making, because if I were aware that this were just not a parking area with a structure somewhere over here and a structure over here, I would have paid much more attention to this grading area, just based on the fact that there is a structure that's either inhabited or occupiable. So I think that that is a material element that was, and again, I'm not saying intentionally, but was left out of the documentation. And I think that it would have been important to be there. And I do think that that is, I hope this isn't a push comes to shove matter, but I do believe that is leverage for the commission with respect to our position and our decision. So those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stephen. Val, are you ready now?
Yeah, I basically was trying to think of how to say it, but I thought the idea of stepping down the yard as well would go a long way. if it has to stay in this particular location. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Now that we see it, the original location was probably the right location, but given what we have and wanting to work out some sort of situation, I think the stepping down would go a long way. And I do appreciate that the neighbor's trying to work with his surrounding neighbors, but I just wanted to make a point that whether your neighbors cleared their lot or not, which would give view to this thing that's going on, you're also clearing your property to put a house on it. So keep that in mind. And also your solution, while nice, is accreting onto their property to soften the situation that's created by what you're proposing. So I think just sort of taking everything, stepping it down and maybe pulling it back is the right way to go.
Thank you, Val. John. By the way, you'll notice that when I make my comments, if I have time to do so, we're going to exceed 5 people. This is not an application. I'm going to remind everyone here that this is not an application. We're not voting on an application here. What we're doing is we're discussing this, and depending on how the discussion goes, and I may have to figure this out afterwards, it will determine which path we take moving forward, whether there will be an application or how this all gets resolved. But having said that, I'd like to hear from my friend John. John, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
You want comment?
Yes. Let us know what you have to think about this.
Comments?
Yep. From you. Uh-oh. John, you're sort of still right now. Okay. While we're getting John on, we might want to discuss, seeing as we have only 9 minutes left in this, how we should proceed with this. By the way, my comments are, the planting and so forth, it's been said in sort of somewhat different ways by various members of the board, but if you have a 30-foot tall tree and you're seeing a roof above that, it's implying that the thing behind it is as tall as the tree and then some. So it's screening, yes, but it's screening of a nature that says this thing is really tall. If I'm looking at a castle in the Bavarian countryside and it's surrounded by 40-foot high fir trees, and I still see the roof, it means that that building is pretty damn tall. So I'm interested in, I'm hoping that there can be some mitigating factors that are applied to this amicably, because, I believe maybe Stephen said this, it's entirely possible. I'm not convinced that everything that is built out there is, completely in conformance with HCC approvals. Chuck has given us strong evidence to the contrary. So I think we need to scrutinize that information. John, say something, John. Let me see if you're on audio yet.
There he is.
John?
I'm right here.
Oh, do you have comments on the application? We're running out of time.
Okay, I'll make it quick.
Yep.
Yeah. As what I've gone over this, went up and viewed it from the street and the travel way, and all the comments that were made today that I caught on, that I'll make no comment this time, but if there come in corrections to straighten up to make sure everything is legal on there, I'll wait until then. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Listen, I think given our time constraint here, and I know that the applicant in particular is eager to get this behind him so that they can move forward. as a stopgap measure right now, Kathy, I would like you to put this on again as other business at our next agenda, just so that we can keep it open, so that we can have a discussion if necessary, or continue our discussion if necessary.
So
Okay.
that will be June 16th, because I already posted next week's agenda.
Well, let's do that. Again, that's a stopgap measure. But I might also call upon you, and you and I can have a private conversation about this, about maybe getting something up before then, like this.
Yes.
You know, like a Thursday meeting, sort of a special meeting. Well, with that, thank you, everyone. I really hope that we can find some sort of amicable resolution to all this, so that we can all move forward and all feel good about this. Thank you all for your participation. What can I tell you, Kathy? What do you want to say?
Nothing, but Mark was raising.
Just a quick point of clarification. Are we not, because you didn't complete the agenda the other night, are we not continued to Tuesday anyway, in spite of this special meeting?
I thought the same thing, maybe.
I'm sorry, what?
You didn't complete the agenda Tuesday evening. Did that agenda get posted to, and we're on that, are we not?
No, that's this agenda.
And this was a special meeting though, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was a continuation of our Tuesday's agenda.
All right, so we don't still appear on the Tuesday agenda for next week?
I don't believe so. Kathy?
Call me.
What?
Well, what about the other applications on there?
They're going to Tuesday because they haven't been heard.
The 4 applications on right now are going to Tuesday. Mark, I'll talk to you about yours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Point of clarification, it's Monday.
I'm sorry, Monday, thank you.
Monday's meeting, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so listen, thank you all for your time. I don't think we need to, nor can I or believe that we can actually take a vote on this at this time. So let's all be in touch and see where this goes from here, okay? Thank you. Now, can we make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Okay, I think Diane beat you to it, Stephen.
That's awesome.
Diane has made a motion to adjourn for the day. Let's see. Val.
Aye.
Abby.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
John.
Repeat the motion, please.
Motion is to adjourn for today.
Revisions?
No. This is not an application, John. This is a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I got you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and the chair is in favor. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks. Good discussion, and to be continued. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Bye.
Goodbye.